everyone, this is Maki. Organizations that appear in the Gundam series are often compared by fans. People often discuss how similar these organizations are. Have you ever heard the suggestion that Celestial Being and Mufti are similar? The former appears in Gundam 00 and the latter in Hathaway's Flash. Neither belongs to a central government and both aim to achieve their goals through force. In that sense, you could say they are similar. Some people also say isn't campus similar too. Among fans, there are probably people who say these organizations have completely different natures, so they are not similar at all. To be honest, I also used to think that Celestial Being, Campus and Mufti were not really that similar. But is that really true? When you unknow each element individually, you can also see that these organizations have things in common. Today, I would like to talk about that. If you would like to support Mufti, please join the 99 cents monthly membership. I am Mufti Arian. Those who provide funding will receive a name badge and comment stamps. Alright, let's get started. First, let's compare Celestial Being and Mainstay. Celestial Being is an organization that uses armed force to intervene in conflicts around the world with weapons called Gundams. Their ultimate goal is to eradicate war. The characters themselves struggle with the logical contradiction of using force to eliminate war. Alaruya says of himself, I am the greatest mass murderer in human history. Loken says I am someone who deserves to be punished. While they have a noble goal, they recognize themselves as terrorists. In that sense, they are somewhat similar to Mufti. However, some of you might think Celestial Being and Mufti have completely different goals. And honestly, that opinion is correct too. Mufti's goal is to prevent a small privileged class from monopolizing the Earth, starting with high-ranking officials of the Earth's Federation government. I've discussed this on my program before. Hathaway and the others are fighting to eliminate factors that could lead to human extinction or future wars. Based on what we've covered so far, Celestial Being and Mufti appear somewhat similar in a spiritual sense. However, fundamentally they are different kinds of organizations. However, I personally think that Celestial Being and Mufti are similar organizations. More precisely, I think Celestial Being in the second season of the story is similar to Mufti. As I mentioned earlier, Mufti's goal is to prevent a privileged class from monopolizing the Earth. They do not seek to destroy the Earth's Federation government itself. In fact, Mufti is an organization that supports the original ideals of the Earth's Federation government. At this point in the story, they are only opposing a portion of the corrupt high-ranking officials of the Earth's Federation government. Doesn't this situation feel similar to Celestial Being? In the first season of Gundam 00, the nations of Earth united to form a single organization. However, within that organization, there were elements that could be described as a kind of pathogen. They were beings who called themselves innovators, claiming to be a superior species who should guide humanity. They attempted to rule over humankind. In the second season, Celestial Being turns against the innovators. Their goal was not to destroy the unified Earth's Federation government. They are acting purely to defeat the innovators who see themselves as a privileged class and are planning one-sided domination. Through this kind of analysis, you can conclude that Celestial Being and Mufti in the second season are organizations with extremely similar natures. In fact, It's possible that celestial being was created with Mufti in mind. However, there is currently no evidence that the director, Mr. Seiji Mizushima, said that celestial being was created based on Mufti. Please bear in mind that this is an interpretation, which includes my own speculations. There are also significant differences between celestial being and Mufti. One of these is the element of preparation. Celestial being is an organization that took over 200 years to prepare, involving many geniuses and talented individuals. In contrast, Mufti is a very young organization and its exact founding date is unclear. The Earth's Federation government itself has only existed for 105 years. Compared to Celestial Being, Mufti is an organization that had an extremely short time to prepare. I won't reveal any details to avoid spoilers, but if you keep this in mind while watching the story, you may notice something new. The release date is currently unknown, but it's worth bearing this in mind when watching the third film. Solar Compass and Mufti similar. Many people would probably say that they're completely different organizations. But since we're here, let's analyze them briefly. Campus is an organization that was officially established through international agreements. It was given the name World Peace Monitoring Organization, and Kira also uses this name when he intervenes in battles, as it intervenes in conflicts from a neutral position and can become hostile towards all factions depending on the situation. Some people might feel that it is similar to Celestial Being. However, after all, Compass is an organization that was officially established at an international level. Its nature is the complete opposite of that of terrorists. Therefore, even though it exists in a different world, you could argue that it is opposed to Mufti. We could end the discussion here, but let's continue the analysis for a little while longer. Kakali took the lead in establishing Compass. In the story, she is raising a successor. One possible interpretation of this is that it is just a little bit similar to Mufti. Mr. Yoshiyuki Tomino has repeatedly explored the idea that large organizations that continue to exist for a long time become distorted and fall into corruption in his works. The Earth's Federation government in the Universal Century series is a perfect example of this. This idea is also present in Gaia Gear, which is set in the distant future. In order to maintain a good organization, it is necessary to raise successors who have the right spirit. The Earth's Federation government in the Universal Century series lacked this mindset. The privileged class chose to unconditionally pass positions on to their relatives and descendants. Consequently, the organization became corrupt and turned into an entity that tormented the people. Kagali is raising a successor. Even if she were an excellent ruler and leader, she still has limitations as a human being. There is the biological limit of lifespan. As long as there is no such thing as eternal life, Kagali will inevitably die someday. The same is true of Kira, Athran, and Shin. In order to leave behind a better organization in the future, Kagali is raising a successor. The successor she is raising is not a blood relative of hers. This is also a major difference from the Universal Century Cabinet members. Rather than choosing someone connected by blood, she is raising a successor who has the qualities of an excellent leader. To prevent future corruption and moral decay, Kagali is fighting her own kind of battle. Given that they are both fighting corruption and moral decay, it is not strange to see Compass and Mufti as being somewhat similar. In the story, Hathaway is deeply troubled. He knows that Mufti's actions are wrong. He clearly recognizes this fact himself. However, he cannot find a better alternative. With tears in his eyes, he says, "Please tell me how to destroy this incomprehensible structure." One possible answer he is searching for might be Kagali's actions. However, in the case of Compass, it is characterized as a newly created organization. In contrast, the Earth Federation government is an organization that has existed for over 100 years. It is extremely difficult to restore an organization that has gradually become distorted and corrupted over a long period of time to its former state. Nevertheless, Hathaway does not give up. To save people from misery and avoid extinction, he takes on the fight in his own way. By comparing Mufti with Celestial Being and Compass, we can see just how difficult Hathaway's battle really is. Let's see where his fight leads. Thank you for watching until the end. I'll see you again on the next program.